Next up, we have our Bookstr segment with Sarah Hill. Bookstr is a website for book lovers and much more. She's joined by Maureen Chiquet, the former CEO of Chanel, who's been described by the New York Times as a cross between Sheryl Sandberg and Elizabeth Gilbert. If you don't know who that is, that's the author of Eat, Pray, Love. She's here to discuss her new book, Beyond the Label, and her personal journey that took her to the top echelons of the world of European high fashion. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today, Maureen. I love the book.
Thank you, David.
Hi,
Great.
Maureen.
Thank you. Hi, Selena.
Hi.
How are you?
Good morning.
So, Maureen, you've thrived as an outsider your whole life. In your book, you go take a step-by-step on how you were an outsider, even in middle school.
Yes.
And even now, in some ways, you feel like an outsider.
Always, yeah.
So how have you thrived in spite of being a complete outsider?
You know, in a way, it's an advantage to be an outsider because you can see things radically differently than everybody who's on the inside, right? So you gain in observational skills, and it certainly helps when you're a leader or when you're a manager because you come in with fresh ideas. I think also when I was young, in a way, what it also helped me do is look inside and look at myself. You know, when I was walking up those steps at John Burroughs High School, you know, brand new in 10th grade, and everybody knew each other, it was a way for me to self-reflect. Who am I? How do I fit in? How don't I fit in?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So something we were talking about earlier, because we do have our Bookstr audience watching, hello everyone, that it's made up of a bunch of writers, and you yourself started out with a liberal arts degree, and you ended up being the CEO of a global company, not only that, but a significant, iconic global company. Can you talk a little bit to these writers out there or the people with these degrees, like how did this journey happen for you?
Well, I think first of all, when I was 16, I fell madly in love with France. So the journey kind of started, I like to say it started with goat cheese. I know that sounds strange, but I was in the south of France and I was falling in love with all the beauty there. I mean, my senses were kind of blown open, goat cheese being one of the things I learned to love. But that led me in so many ways to appreciate imagery, to appreciate text. I was a reader and I love stories. So in college, I studied literature, but I studied film and theater as text, really. And that helped me tap into my emotions. It was a lot about, you know, when you're looking at an image or when you're reading something, what do you feel? And what kind of story do you create? And so in turn, that was what actually helped me in my marketing job, in my first marketing job, when, once again, by the way, I was an outsider coming in with absolutely no MBA. You were one of the only
males, and you were one of the only males, or one of the only females, excuse me, in the L'Oreal training program. Is that correct?
No, there are a lot of women
you were in northern France, correct?
Right, yeah. They put me in northern France, which I actually think is a quite beautiful region, but doesn't always get the best rap because it's coal mining country. But even there, what I learned was how to think about beauty differently. It's not about some plastic, superficial thing. It's about the story that's being told. So I remember one morning waking up and seeing this beautiful mountain, purple mountain, and I realized that it was coal. It was actually coal, you know, coal chips. And I thought, you know, that's beautiful in a way because it tells you something about the hard work in that region and about the stories of the people who live there.
Absolutely. So, Maureen, you know, you were the global CEO of Chanel, a world-renowned company, and now you have this book that you have just released. What else? So where else are you taking the trajectory of your career? Because it's like you made it to the very, very top. Now what?
That's a great question.
It is a great.
Curious.
I know it's a great question, and it's so interesting. I look back at my career over 30 years in fashion and beauty and retail and marketing. So rich. I've worked for some of the best brands in the world, Gap, Old Navy, Banana Republic, and then of course Chanel, L'Oreal. Right now, what I'm really interested in is taking the creativity that I have, the ideas that I have, and pouring them into another way of actually helping people. And it could be through leadership initiatives and things that I've been talking a lot to a lot of executives and companies, but I'd also really like to create something again. I love writing. I love stories. I'd love to continue. I have more stories to tell and maybe dimensionalize them in a new way.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm like, I have all kinds of ideas of things that you can
good.
do.
That's great. You can help me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll need it.
That's awesome. That's so fun.
Well, so what advice do you have for millennials who are just getting started? I mean, the three of us are millennials, and we have a very lively Bookstr audience watching. So with liberal arts degrees just like yourself. So what do we do with our lives, Maureen?
You know, it's so funny. I have daughters too. So one is 21 and one is 24, and they've been thinking a lot about what they're going to do. And what I've noticed is we usually go straight to a profession, right? We get out of college, and we have a pressure. We have to work. We have to make money. But we also think we have to find the right job and the right profession and the right career, which, by the way, almost doesn't happen, almost never happens. You're going to play around and have sort of an explorer's mind. But I like to consider 3 questions. And by the way, I am in these questions. I'm always in these questions. And it is, what do I really care about? I mean, when you go beyond the label and the title and the role or the parents' expectations of you, what is it that makes your heart sing? Question 1. Question 2, where can I make a mark that's really my own? What is my unique talent? And I think about so many times in my career where I might have been in a job type, but I brought something to that job type that was mine. And the third thing I would say is, what context are you in, or what's your situation? I mean, sometimes you might have to take a job that where the first 2 things don't line up. How do you make that job into something better for you? Or how do you change jobs?
You know, Maureen, in the beginning, we talked about how you were an outsider. And
Right.
I think that, a lot of people, especially those who may be women or LGBTQ
Right.
or Black or brown, we feel that
Yeah.
all the time. How do you take those feelings and, turn it into something positive as a motivation? How did you do that in particular?
Yeah, it's interesting because I have lots of reasons for which I feel like an outsider or have felt like an outsider. And so I empathize with that. But for me, what it was really about was staying close to what I was feeling all the time and also expressing that sometimes. And I learned that much later, and I wish in some ways I'd learned that earlier in my career. For example, when I was leading Chanel, and I felt like such an outsider, I was with all men. I had never been in the luxury business. I was 43 years old, and they were all a decade or more older than I was. And I felt like sometimes it was just about admitting my feelings of awkwardness. Like, listen, guys, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to ask you some questions. And kind of getting to a human level, again, beyond these labels of you are this or you are that, but how can we be humans? And I felt like as an outsider, that's something I always strive to do. But by the way, it's not easy. And I've felt awkward in so many situations.
Do you still have that awkward feeling at times?
All the time. All the time. I mean, it's something I think I live with, and I don't know. I think we all, in some ways, feel like we're outsiders. It's kind of an interesting notion because even when you're part of the club, you're always thinking, where am I not part of this club, or where do I not conform? But I also feel like not using that as a self-criticism, because oftentimes I know this is my tendency. I'll turn that inwards. And say, well, this is my fault if I can't really be like those other people. But I think it's really kind of being open and being human and getting to a human level with them.
Absolutely. I would agree with that there.
Yeah.
So despite all of your success, and I'm an extreme extrovert, you're an introvert, correct?
I am such an introvert. And everybody is surprised because they go, no way, you get out there and you talk, and how are you an introvert? Well, first of all, introverts actually don't get their energy from big crowds, and they get exhausted in big crowds. So one of the things that has helped me as an introvert is just resourcing myself after events or in big groups or when I led companies, just taking the time to either meditate, read, watch a great series on TV, but some quiet time. Because it was really, really hard as an introvert to always be out there and always... And the other thing that I would say is interesting about introverts is because we don't talk all the time, we listen a lot. And so when you talk, you have something perhaps relevant to say. So it's kind of a difference in managing what you do and what you say and how you spend your time.
Absolutely.
Can I ask,
Yeah.
what made you decide to get into writing and to publish this book now?
A few things. First of all, I just love stories, and I've always loved literature. So I think I was kind of harboring that. I was wanting to do something like that. But beyond that, when I was doing some really interesting leadership work at Chanel, and I wanted to talk about it because I thought it could help other leaders in other companies. And I'd mentored so many people and been mentored by amazing people. And that mentorship wasn't like advice, like here's what you need to do next. It was conversational. It was telling stories. It was asking questions. So I knew that I wanted to write something so that my mentorship could be just like I was sitting across a table from somebody.
Wow.
That's great.
That's excellent. Is there any other gems or pieces of advice that you share in the book that you think would be relevant to, again, our millennial audience?
I think that taking risks in a way and putting yourself on your edge all the time, and I know it's hard in today's world because you want to secure a job, you want to be sure that you make enough money to live, but I have found that sometimes when you're in a situation where you just don't feel like you're getting done what you want to get done, or you're getting to the place that you want to get to, and I don't mean job title, I mean the place you want to get to here. Mm-hmm. Making that change and taking that risk. I've always felt like I need to be on an edge. I always need to be on an edge because that's what helps me grow.
So a lot of your inspiration at Chanel came from Coco Chanel.
So much, yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, all the glitz and glamour of, being the global CEO of one of the most famous fashion houses in the world.
And the female founder story, I just want to put that in there. She has an incredible
that was what was so fascinating to me, and one of the things that compelled me to go to Chanel. Because believe it or not, when I was at the Gap, it was kind of the center of the universe. So going and moving my family first to Paris and then to New York seemed really difficult. But what I love so much about working at a brand like Chanel is you have this legacy and this founder who's a woman and who's made major change in the world by changing the way women are able to dress, right? Women were in corsets, high necklines and long gowns. She loosened all that up and freed all of us. And in so many ways, that freed us in our way of being.
And made suits, too.
Right.
She made the first suit for a woman.
Right. And that inspired me in how you think about the company. I mean, how do you take this legacy and make it modern? And what can you offer your employees, your clients, that makes them feel the same way, or at least gives them some of the same things that Chanel was able to give us?
That's so interesting because we see a lot of legacy brands struggling, especially those in media, trying to become relevant. I mean, how do you do? I mean, Chanel it seems like it's mastered that. Like, it's a legacy brand, but it's still very relevant and is still reaching millennials and Generation X.
Part of it is not getting caught up in the thing of the day. And, a new platform comes out, it's the thing of the day. And staying really close to who you are and what your purpose is. What is the purpose of your brand? Why do you sell what you sell to your customers? And then starting to think of how can you express that and have those conversations and be in those relationships with your customers in new ways every day. But I think a lot of brands, what they do is start with the what as opposed to what, like Simon Sinek says, the why.
Wow.
So you and I worked at the same company. I worked at the Gap.
No way. No way.
In Orlando, Florida. But, you were at the Gap when it was the center of the universe, and now it's not. What do you think retail stores can do to stay relevant, just like Selena was saying?
I think the landscape is awfully difficult out there. What the internet has done is not only given us new ways to shop, but it's brought a whole slew of new brands to us, right? Because now you don't have to spend a fortune to have a storefront. So what I think is retail is not going to go away, or brick and mortar is not going to go away, but the function's going to change. It's not just a transaction. It is going to be about a place where we meet other people, where we connect, where we have relationships. So I feel like brands have to rethink what retail is and what their precious stores are. And then also, and you guys tell me, you're millennials, but I feel like brands that have a deeper purpose that connect to what we care about today, connect social issues, connect to environmental issues. I think these are brands I know that I am looking to and that I trust more and that are transparent. So I think there's a lot of work to do in the traditional brands to get to those places.
Absolutely. And it's so important, I think, for millennials, for brands to connect to the issues we care about. But you have to do it in an authentic way.
Totally.
Don't do it like Pepsi did. Okay?
No, you know what?
That was horrible. That
totally
commercial.
Not appropriate causes.
Yeah.
Like, I look at companies like REI, and I think about the hashtag opt-out, opt-out Black Friday, yeah. So they closed all their stores on the busiest retail day of the year, but to get us to go outside. That's in line with who they are. They sell outdoor equipment and clothing. That makes sense to me because it sort of combines what they do with a deeper purpose that they care about.
I'm very cost-driven myself. So the suit I'm wearing I bought because I like many brands, but I'm very cost-conscious. And I feel like a lot of retailers have fallen behind in that space, and that's why they're losing to online.
Right.
How can retailers, and you were a buyer for a long time,
I was.
remain relevant, have great bargains for shoppers, but really not compromise quality or their brand?
It's a pretty tough thing to do. I mean, it's because I think you know, if I think back to my career and whatever it was, 20,
Belts
25
and socks, right? Is that how you
Well, yeah.
started?
Well, we were sourcing in places that were low cost that today aren't low cost anymore.
Right.
So I think in general, prices are going to go up. But I also think there are ways of rethinking the profit model so that you don't actually have to make as much. And, you know, part of the retail model and what makes that model so expensive are retail boutiques. So when you think about it, there's almost a reconsideration of the whole model that has to start to happen.
But we also have to realize too, like as millennials, we're valuing less, I think, like quality and things like that. Hopefully, I'm hoping that will not always be the case because, you know, I hate to say it, but like those Zara outfits aren't going to last forever. And if you have something like a Chanel suit or something that's a classic black dress, then you can get maybe more mileage out of it.
Definitely.
But can you justify that upfront expense? I don't know. You know, that
Now
kind
with
of stuff.
student loan debt being so high, I mean, it's a different world that we live in.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Student loan debt is like what $1 trillion or
It's
something
crazy.
like that. So millennials are facing different challenges. But you're right. Like I do believe in investing in quality, and that's what the Chanel brand gives us the option to do.
I think that's a really good point. I think brands, and you know, it also puts into question a little bit this fast fashion model, right? Because we're constantly looking for the next new thing in fast fashion. Investment means that you might be hanging on to something a little longer, but it means something to you and you can wear it longer because the quality is there.
Well, ladies,
Yeah.
we are out of time, but thank you so much for coming, Maureen,
Thanks
and for
for
signing
having
my book.
me. Thank you. It was so much fun.
Yes,